Hi everyone, this is John. Welcome back to another episode of the Subcontinent. Our episodes aim to address important issues in the subcontinent which affect the government, people, organizations and the region as a whole. We will try to explain the issues, break down controversies surrounding them and try to have some external perspectives from experts and people. Stay with us.
In this edition of the Subcontinent, we shall see how the Indian government is erasing India's Muslim history and identity. And we will look into how food security is put at risk in the subcontinent during the region's worst ever battle against locust swarms.
Over the past 5 years of Modi's term, Hindu nationalists have renamed Indian towns, streets, airports, and even the historic Mughal-Assyrian Junction railway station in the state of Uttar Pradesh, swapping names that reflect Muslim heritage for Hindu-centric ones. The Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, claims the push to remap areas and rewrite history is for India to reclaim its Hinduness or Hindutva. And it's not only renaming landmarks, it's also rewriting school textbooks and training civil servants to reinterpret Indian history through a Hindu lens.
The Indian government is sparing no efforts to make the Muslim community and its culture and identity indiscernible in the fabric of society. The Hindu Nationalist Administration is even changing the geography and history of India through removing the historic names of cities and streets. Allahabad, where millions of Hindus take an annual ritual dip in the Ganges River, the Kumbh Mela is one of the most controversial ones. A few years back, officials from the Bharatiya Janata Party changed the name of Allahabad to Prayagraj. Allahabad was Allahabad since the 16th century, and the change comes at a time when there is anger with the government over its handling of Ganga. In 2018, environmental activist G.D. Agarwal lost his life after fasting for over 111 days, demanding an unpolluted flow in Ganga. So is this name change just a distraction? The government says Hindu-sounding and looking names are better representations of the society, and the changes are not targeted at the Islamic ones and also include the names decided during the colonial rule in India. But erasing parts of the Indian history means a serious blow to one of its most attractive soft power assets, its diversity.
In May 2015, many street signs in New Delhi carrying Urdu Muslim names, including Aurangzeb Road, named after the 6th Mughal emperor, were painted black by Shiv Sena Hindustan, a radical Hindu organization. Later in that year, the ruling BJP officially changed the name of Aurangzeb Road to APJ Abdul Kalam, a pro-BJP ex-president of India. Then in April 2016, the BJP government in Haryana renamed the city of Gurgaon as Gurugram, after Guru Dronacharya, an upper caste Hindu figure from the epic Mahabharata, who is viewed as a villain by India's low-caste Dalits.
Some believe even Gandhi's legacy is at risk, not only because under the current BJP rule there have been statues put up to his Hindu nationalist assassin Nathuram Godse, but also through pleas to amend the constitution and replace the word India with Bharat. The petition, which was rejected by India's Supreme Court, read the removal of the English name, though appears symbolic, will instill a sense of pride in our nationality and will ensure the citizens of this country to get over the colonial past. The Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha, RSS, the ideological parent of the BJP, also demands many other places, including the cities of Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and Aurangabad, to be renamed. The changes are presented as a rejection of anglicized names that came into use during British rule, but most of them are not about erasing colonial monikers. It's about erasing Muslim ones. The man behind Allahabad's name change and many others is Yogi Adityanath, a firebrand Hindu priest and chief minister of India's most populous state, Uttar Pradesh. Adityanath, who is also the founder of a Hindu youth militia, has a reputation for inciting hatred against Muslims.
Now, to learn more about this issue, we are joined by Mr. Feroz Mithi Borwala, who is an Indian activist and co-founder of Muslim Intellectual Forum. Mr. Mithi Borwala, welcome to the program. How can this state policy of swapping Muslim names with Hindu ones change the fabric of Indian society?
See, essentially, for the last 70 odd years since independence, India has been known to be a liberal, secular, multicultural, multi-religious society. And we have lived that truth. We have lived that life. But ever since the coming of Narendra Modi in 2014, things have begun to change, and now we are essentially run by a Hindutva government at the center. Increasingly, states that are being ruled, especially the largest state, Uttar Pradesh, under Yogi, who is another far-right kind of political Hindutva leader. So then we've had this process of renaming Muslim towns, cities, and other places across the country, and that is hurting the fabric of our nation, and that is essentially damaging our multicultural fabric.
So aren't all of these examples of systematic Islamophobia in the country?
Undoubtedly, this is an Islamophobic government. Muslims have been lynched since 2014 on the roads, in the fields, in the towns and cities. And Modi's mindset, despite the fact that he said that I'm talking about 1.3 billion Indians and all that, that's only talk. Muslims have been pushed to the corner. We had the Delhi riots recently, which were totally planned by the current Home Minister of the center, Amit Shah, who's Modi's best, or his man Friday. So we've had some horrors happening in this country. A lot of activists, Hindu and Muslim activists, secular activists, are being arrested by this current government. It is essentially anti-Muslim and very Islamophobic.
All right, Mr. Mithi Borwala, before moving on to the questions, I would like you to see the media coverage regarding this issue, and then we can continue.
When socially and politically controversial, renaming is a lot more than simply changing a word on a map or a street sign. Place names are an important element of a country's cultural landscape, as they naturally document and reflect a locality's heritage and identity. The Supreme Court ordered that a plea to change India's name exclusively to Bharat be converted into a representation and forwarded to the Union government for an appropriate decision, as Bharat and India are both names given in the Constitution. India is already called Bharat in the Constitution. While the phenomenon of changing names of cities is not new, the raison d'etre is definitely different. The reason given by BJP leaders for the name change spree is to cleanse what the Mughals had sullied. The intent is definitely political, as the BJP tries to pit Hindu pride against Muslim invaders for the elections.
All right, thank you, Mr. Feroz, for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed watching that, and thanks to the audience as well. So, what should be done to stop the ruling Hindu Nationalist Party from further erasing Muslim heritage?
See, essentially, it requires a change of government, to put it very clearly. In 2024, when we are up for the general elections again, we have to ensure that the Modi junta is defeated and the secular parties come to the forefront. It is going to be very difficult, because the entire politics has shifted to the right, to jingoist nationalism, to jingoist Hinduism. The media out here is atrocious. The Indian media, I believe, is the most sold out and the most atrocious media in the world today. Every day we have them pandering to dividing the ordinary Hindus and Muslims of this country, spreading hatred, spreading divisions, is the role of the Indian media. The role of the media is to question the government of the day. Here you have them questioning the opposition parties, defending whatever Modi does or does not do. So we have a major challenge on our hands. We are actually facing a fascist government at the center. The opposition parties are weak. There is a lot of division. The other problem is that Narendra Modi has lots of money, where they just buy out members of parliament and legislative assemblies that are elected from other parties. So he uses blackmail, he uses the income tax department to raid, and throws money to buy out political leaders who are willing to be bought. So right now, India is in a very, very difficult situation. But I believe that the students' movement, the youth movement, the workers' movement, the farmers' movement, and the rest of the opposition parties together can actually create a massive alliance leading into 2024, and we have state elections that are coming in between, which I believe Modi will face his defeat, because India as an economic power is on the decline. Modi has no economic policy, no industrialization. We are facing a lot of problems, and essentially we are facing a massive, it's a big challenge right now in front of our entire country to defeat the fascist regime in Delhi.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mithi Borwala, for being with us and sharing your opinions. Viewers, now let's see what the social media is boiling regarding this issue and what people are saying online, and then we can continue with the rest of the segment.
Advait believes that history is a strong enemy of RSS and Brahmanism, and that is why they are trying to rewrite it. Arif Alvi, the president of Pakistan, considers the decision of India to rewrite its history and isolating Muslims and Kashmiris self-destructive, and he believes India has taken a dangerous path. Swati Chaturvedi warns those who want to rewrite history that India is known for Gandhi and they need to be careful about it. Rizwan Ahmed refers to an article about the discrimination in India based on Islamic and Urdu names as signs of the identity of the Muslim minorities.
Coronavirus has taught humanity that sometimes when the enemy is so minuscule, the battle is even harder. Locusts are only millimeters long, but colossal swarms of desert locusts resemble dark storm clouds. They're roaming through croplands and flattening farms in a devastating salvo. Experts are calling an unprecedented threat to food security. This year's attack is the worst seen in 3 decades, and scientists predict that the crisis will worsen with the monsoon season.
While the entire globe is plagued by the pandemic and lockdowns, the subcontinent is fighting its worst ever battle against another tiny deadly living being, locusts. Amid concerns of heat waves and crop failure comes the migratory pest, the multifaceted impacts of which are causing mass hysteria about the future of food security in the subcontinent and probably Asia and Africa. If the coronavirus weren't enough to unite the subcontinent, these flying swarms of ravenous bugs have made India and Pakistan put aside their differences and cooperate against the pests, a move that should be followed by other countries of the region in order to curb the parasitic swarms. During the COVID pandemic, we well learned that when the enemy is from another species, unity and cooperation is mankind's best bet. The Indian government wants to tackle this regionally and has offered to set aside some of its differences with Pakistan to provide the neighboring country with pesticide to spray on its side of the border. India has made the same offer to Iran, which responded positively.
According to Food and Agriculture Organization reports on the decadal economic and social impacts of locust plagues in the past century, in 2020, locusts have already destroyed crops in 18 districts of Rajasthan and 12 districts of Madhya Pradesh, while crops in Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana and Maharashtra are under threat of an attack. According to the report by Food and Agriculture Organization, the locust swarm was responsible for crop infestation in 280,000 hectares across 13 countries prior to arrival in India.
Locust swarms consume everything in their path, leaving behind ruined cropland and barren pastures, and their voracious consumption of most species of crop creates food scarcity for native fauna and other insects. Worse, the second wave of locusts expected this summer is projected to be 20 times more damaging than the first one. The UN estimates its size to be around 1.9 trillion locusts. Climate change and its impact on the monsoon is thought to cause range expansion in locust swarms. And rising sea temperatures due to increased greenhouse gas emissions are expected to create more favorable conditions for locust swarms in the coming years.
साहब 3 बार टीडी आ गई, 4 बीघा भी नहीं खा गई, हम तो नुकसान कर दिया बिल्कुल। मान जाओ कई नाराज साहब की मैं नाराज बिल्कुल कर दी उस पास वो कटे जाओ हम तो नुकसान कर दिया हम 12 अब कई तरह साहब नकी अब बिल्कुल नाश कर दी फसल। 2 महीना हजार होता न टे फिर कोई दम न रही कई भी न रही अब कई कह रहा साहब बिल्कुल खागी भी नहीं।
The current locust swarm is thought to have originated in Southeast Asia due to the Indian Ocean dipole, or the so-called Indian Niño, through which the waters of Western Indian Ocean becomes alternately warmer and then colder than the eastern part. It has significant effects on Southeast Asian and Australian droughts, as well as on rainfall across East Africa. Therefore, we should brace for the entailing agricultural and food insecurities that even threaten Asian and African countries.
Now, to have more insight, we are joined by Mr. Keith Cressman. He is the Senior Locust Forecasting Officer at the UN's Food and Agricultural Organization. Mr. Cressman, welcome to the show. So, please tell us, how big of a threat is the locust invasion in the subcontinent?
Well, we have to consider that such locust invasions are very rare situations. The last time that the subcontinent was really affected by the magnitude and the scale that we're seeing today was in 1993. So this is quite a long time. Now the current threat, as I've said, is just as severe as 1993 and probably a bit greater. We have seen swarms come into the subcontinent from southern Iran to the borders of India and Pakistan last summer. There was massive breeding throughout the summer that continued until early this year. Then there's kind of a calm period during the springtime in India. But now, once again, we're seeing the re-entry of new swarms, of spring-bred swarms from those same source areas, southern Iran, southwest Pakistan, at the beginning of the monsoon period. What is most critical this year, of course, is that there's a second threat, and this threat is coming from East Africa. And we have not seen such a threat in decades that could impact the subcontinent.
So what do you think? What will be the consequences of the locust invasion for the food security in India?
Well, locust invasions and food security, it's always a matter of timing. So if we consider that the swarms first started entering Rajasthan in early May, and they continued throughout May and well into June, and they're still continuing now as we speak. They're coming from the west. This is ahead of the monsoon rains, of course, in May and June, and so the locusts, they found dry conditions. They did find, small parts of agriculture that they got into some small farms of Rajasthan because there is nothing else for them. But most important is that many of the swarms, they continued east into the northern states of India ahead of the monsoon rain. But the point is, of course, that this is at the beginning of the planting period. So the impacts can be very severe. Maybe some farmers would be too afraid to plant. Maybe they will plant late. This could have, of course, consequences on the harvest. But then if we look towards that harvest period, later in the summer, it's likely to coincide with the second generation of swarm production. So again, when farmers are ready to harvest the crops from their fields, they will be facing swarms. So again, this can be threats to food security and to people's livelihoods this year in India.
Mr. Cressman, it would be nice if you could take a look at the regional and global media coverage regarding this situation, which we have collected, and then we can come back to the question and answer session. Please stay with us.
Potential management techniques for locust plagues include using wind as a marker, monitoring the swarms and their range expansion, and biological control for pest management. Annually, the desert locust traverses most arid and semi-arid zones from parts of West Africa to eastern India. Pakistan and India, also bitter regional rivals, have been coordinating through the FAO's Commission for Controlling the Desert Locust in Southwest Asia on controlling the locust activity, sharing data and attending weekly meetings. A moderate infestation from across the border chomped through crops in an estimated 300,000 hectares in Rajasthan and Gujarat in January. An upsurge in locust attacks since last year is being attributed to favorable breeding weather caused by a large number of cyclones in East Africa. India, China and Pakistan face the most risk in Asia. Pakistan has already declared an agricultural emergency, according to an Indian official.
All right, welcome back, Mr. Cressman. So, how can the Indian government counter this threat? Is there any regional cooperation required?
Yes, with desert locust, because it's a migratory pest, there's a few important points in terms of managing the locust. One, of course, is, as you mentioned, regional cooperation. This is absolutely key. Because locusts, of course, they don't need visas, they don't respect international borders, they don't respect national borders as well. They just spread out everywhere. The second most important element, of course, is preparation, anticipatory action in advance. Now, this threat to India that we knew was going to materialize in about June and July, both from southern Iran and from East Africa, was communicated to the government at the beginning of this year, in January. In fact, I personally visited India. I went to Delhi, I went to Rajasthan. I discussed with the national and the regional authorities what steps they could take. So essentially, the governments at the federal level and at the regional level, they had nearly 5 months to plan ahead in anticipation of this threat, of the invasion of the swarms. This is unprecedented. Normally, there's about 1 week of advance warning. So, 4 months, 5 months was sufficient time for the government to mobilize additional teams, to train them, to procure additional equipment. This is vehicles, these are sprayers, to make arrangements for aerial control operations if needed, to look into the possibility of using drones. And you have to remember, of course, India has the world's oldest national locust program. It dates back to the pre-partition times. So India is very expertise in terms of managing locusts. Every year they're making surveys in the deserts in Rajasthan and northern Gujarat, monitoring the situation week by week, month by month, year by year. So this capacity that the government has is extremely important. And of course, it's mainly focused in Western India. But the Locust Warning Organization of the country, of course, has been working very closely with those other northern states that don't see locusts very often. So we think that there should be a very good opportunity this summer between July to about November to reduce those locust populations, to reduce the return migration back to the spring breeding areas in the west, and to protect those crops in the field.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cressman, for being with us. It was very nice having you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Viewers, now let's see how people have voiced their opinions on social media regarding the locust infestation, and then we can conclude with the show.
Chana Prakash posted a video of locust attack in a farm. In another tweet, Ian Bremer shares a short video of one of the worst locust swarms in India. This map shared by the Eritrea's Minister of Information contains useful information about the locust crisis in Africa and Asia, including India and Pakistan. This Facebook post refers to a BBC report of China sending ducks to Pakistan as a way to help them overcome the problem.
And that was our episode covering how India is slowly removing the Muslim identity in its roots, and how locusts are affecting the subcontinent. To watch bits of our episodes and more updates, follow us on our social media platforms and make sure to give us feedback about what you think. We'll meet the same time, same day next week. Thanks for watching.